Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Coaster News. And as always, we've got some amazing news from different theme parks, rides, attractions and events all over the world. So let's get straight into the news today. Our top story for tonight, Sick has finally officially opened at Flamingo Land. After all these years of waiting, all these precisely like 3.5 years of construction, well, mostly COVID delays. Obviously, the first year was construction, and then delayed twice by COVID. The Intamin 10 inversion coaster, known as Sick, has finally officially opened to the public at Flamingo Land in North Yorkshire. And this is a historic day for Yorkshire theme parks. Yeah, I don't know why I said it like that. But for theme parks in the UK, even though it's a very similar layout to Colossus at Thorpe Park. Basically, if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically Sick at Flamingo Land is an Intamin multi-inversion coaster, specifically a 10 inversion coaster, Revision B. Obviously, if it's Revision B, so it's a similar layout to Colossus at Thorpe Park, which is a Revision A model. However, not only is Sick taller, faster, but the track profiling is different, including the first drop, which rather than being like Colossus where it just goes into a turn and then drops, Sick just goes straight into the drop, straight down, and it's really cool. And also, probably one of the most notable features is that Sick has, instead of being like Colossus at Thorpe Park, where it's got over-the-shoulder restraints, Sick has lap bars. And if you don't know what lap bars I mean, basically just imagine like the ones on here. These are actually the trains for Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It has similar lap bars to that. And it's really cool. I've actually been on Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, which only has lap bars, and that goes upside down, and that feels really weird. And so, if you feel so free on that ride because it's not got over-the-shoulder restraints, it's got lap bars. So that's how I felt when I went on Icon, which had very similar restraints. So I'd imagine that's how people felt when they went on Sick at Flamingo Land, especially since that goes upside down a total of 10 times. Obviously, including the the quadruple barrel rolls, which are probably the most iconic parts of the ride. And the history of this ride has actually kind of not always been at Flamingo Land, if that makes any sense. Basically, it was originally supposed to be built at Hopi Hari Amusement Park over in Brazil. All the track was fabricated, but then Hopi Hari ran into some financial issues when all the track and supports arrived at the park, and they couldn't afford to actually even build the ride. So all the track was in pieces in a car park for a few years until they managed to sell it to Movie Animation Park Studios over in Malaysia. They had it in storage for a couple of years, and then they decided to sell it. And then in 2019, Flamingo Land bought it for a total of £20 million. And obviously, they actually fully constructed the rides. The track was completed in February 2020. It was scheduled for a June or July 2020 opening. And as far as it got, all the track was completed, and they actually started pull-through testing with the ride vehicles. But then March 2020, lockdown was announced and everything closed, including all the construction for Sick at Flamingo Land, which at the time was rumoured to be called Inversion, because Flamingo Land actually trademarked the name Inversion for the ride. And for the next 2 years, it's been delayed by COVID. It was, after lockdown, it was obviously, we all knew it was going to be delayed until 2021. So obviously that 2021 came and the ride still didn't open because, I wouldn't really say because of COVID, because that's kind of, 2021 is kind of when COVID started to get better, but it's more because of the financial struggles that they had in the aftermath of 3 lockdowns in a row at Flamingo Land. Obviously, because they're a family park, they're not owned by these big companies like Merlin or Disney or even Six Flags. They're an independent theme park. So they struggled to build it, and then in 2022 they actually managed to fully paint the ride, do all the landscaping, and test it and open it to the public. And unfortunately, I wasn't there on the opening day, but apparently it is incredible. I've obviously heard it's so much better than Colossus at Thorpe Park. They had an opening ceremony. The reason the ride is called Sick is because it's actually sponsored by a fashion company based in Scarborough called Sick Silk, which is why it's called that. And the ride itself is actually themed to street fashion. It's actually very similar to Icon, where it's Not any theming, but it's more stylized with all the like the landscaping and the Union Jacks on the walls, and the station building looks absolutely incredible on the inside. I've heard that the ride is absolutely incredible, and I cannot wait to ride it for myself one day. In other news today, Hex reopened at Alton Towers after like 4 months of being closed. No, 3 months, 3 and a bit months. It opened for about a day and a half, and then it closed again. Basically, this is kind of ridiculous, honestly. If you know what I'm talking about, at the start of the 2022 season, Hex was actually open, but it was having some mechanical issues. Basically, when the ride was operating, it was making this like loud, incredibly loud noise. I don't know what it sounded like because I didn't actually go on Hex when the Alton Towers reopened. But it was some kind of technical issue that they had. So the ride actually remained closed up until Saturday, actually, when Sick opened at Flamingo Land. It opened for about a day and a half, and then it closed again because it turns out it was still making that noise. They had about 4 months to fix it, and it hadn't been fixed. This is kind of silly. Obviously, if you don't know what Hex is, basically Hex is a Vekoma Madhouse ride that opened in the year 2000 at Alton Towers. It's actually based on a true story. The theme of the ride is about how in the 1800s, the 15th Earl of Shrewsbury and his family was cursed so that any branch from the old oak tree, which is actually a real tree, I've been to it, and any time a branch fell off of that tree, a member of the Earl's family would die. And obviously that did actually happen, so he put chains around it to prevent the branches from falling off. And this is actually a real tree. I've been there, I've taken pictures of it, it's a real tree. And it's really cool. And obviously the rest of it is a part of the ride that Alton Towers themselves actually made up, where the Earl took the original fallen branch back to the towers to experiment on it to basically release the curse, and that's where the ride comes in. It's supposed to be like basically if you don't know what a Vekoma Madhouse ride is, basically you're sat in these seats in a giant room, and the seats actually swing back and forth, and there's actually a part where it goes upside down, or at least it makes you think that you go upside down. The room itself can actually rotate, which is why it makes you think that it's going upside down. It's really cool. And there's not a lot of them in the UK. There's Hex at Alton Towers, and then there's Haunted House Monster Party at Legoland. There is something kind of similar at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Impossible. There's a ride section in there that's on a slightly smaller scale. I'm not sure if it's the same ride type, but it does pretty much the same thing as Hex. And obviously the rides, it's been operating for 22 years now. The weird thing is about it, it actually makes you think it's built physically within the towers themselves. It's actually in a separate building, I think just outside of the towers, because the Alton Towers themselves are actually allowed to build rides within the towers or in the gardens. So they themed it to make it look like it was actually within the towers' ruins themselves, and it's really cool. It's such an immersive dark ride. I did actually used to class it as a flat ride, but now I'm going to class it as a dark ride. Because it's not a flat ride, it's a dark ride. Not a traditional dark ride, but it's really cool. And obviously, back at the start of this year, bear in mind I'm not sure when this problem popped up at Alton Towers. It must have been at the start of the season, because obviously they had a lot longer to fix the ride during the close season. And it suffered a problem. I'm not 100% aware what it was, but it was closed for a very long time. Opened last weekend for about a day and a half, and then it closed again because they hadn't fixed it. And I hope they're currently in the process of fixing it. I doubt it will be open tomorrow for Saturday for the weekend, which is really a shame. I hope that Hex actually does fully reopen this season. Because Alton Towers' ride lineup has kind of been a bit struggling this year, because Hex has been closed all season, and Enterprise is basically, I'm pretty sure it's in the process of deconstruction, because it's not operated all season, that either. I hope they manage to fix Hex, because it's one of the best rides at Alton Towers, and I cannot wait to enter the vault again, because that's what it is. It's supposed to be like themed to vaults that the Earl steals to do experiments on the branch. and it's a really cool ride, and I cannot wait for it to reopen. Also in the news today, Chessington have announced that their new area, Shipwreck Coast, is scheduled to open on the 15th of July 2022. And obviously this is kind of really cool what Chessington are doing. Basically, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Shipwreck Coast is a themed land located at Chessington World of Adventures. It's actually a retheme of the already existing Pirates Cove area. And what is going to consist of this area? They're refurbishing the Sea Storm ride. They're adding additional theming around the Blue Barnacle ride. Bearing in mind that was only refurbished last season. They're adding additional theming around that, including some goats. And I mean like real goats. That's going to be really interesting to see. As well as that, they're adding 2 new rides. They're adding Barrel Bailout, which is like some kind of water ride. Basically, you're sat in barrels in water and you're shooting at other people. It's similar to that SpongeBob splash ride at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I think it's similar. And also another ride is Trawler Trouble, I think it's called, which is basically Timber Tugboat relocated from Fort Park to Chessington. So in total, 4 rides in Shipwreck Coast, as well as lots of additional new theming. And it's really cool, and it's scheduled to open on the 15th of July 2022. And I cannot wait to go to experience Shipwreck Coast at Chessington. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more immersively themed, because Pirates Cove was a good area, but it wasn't like the best area at Chessington. I think, in my opinion, the best area at Chessington is probably either Land of the Tiger or Forbidden Kingdom. But obviously, Shipwreck Coast looks to be absolutely awesome. Got some immersive theming. They've actually added animal encounters around the Blue Barnacle ride with some goats, as well as that. I think they're going to have roaming actors around the area, at least similar to what Alton Towers do with the World of David Williams with the Beefeaters. It's really cool, and I cannot wait to experience Shipwreck Coast when it officially opens at Chessington on the 15th of July. So basically, this time next week, it's going to be awesome. Obviously, the 2 new rides, it's a family area. Probably the most extreme ride there is either Blue Barnacle or Sea Storm, which were already existing rides. Obviously, it's a great family addition, and it's a nice new area to add just before Project Amazon opens, because Project Amazon is going to be, yet again, another new themed area. There's going to consist of a massive, well, not massive new roller coaster. That's the B&M launched winged shuttle coaster, as well as 2 new children's rides, and also additional immersive theming. And I cannot wait for it to open. The future of Chessington is definitely very bright, adding new attractions every year. It looks awesome, and I cannot wait for Shipwreck Coast to open on the 15th of July. And finally, in the news today, Six Flags Magic Mountain have announced that Wonder Woman Flight of Courage will open on the 16th of July 2022. And this is going to be absolutely awesome. It's actually Six Flags Magic Mountain's 20th roller coaster. Obviously, when this opens, this will mean Six Flags Magic Mountain will have the most roller coasters of any theme park in the world. This will be their 20th roller coaster ever. There are some parks that have come close, like Energylandia. I think currently they've got 18 coasters, and Cedar Point have got 17 or 16, something like that. The point is they've got a lot of coasters. Obviously, Wonder Woman Flight of Courage will be their 20th roller coaster. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically, Wonder Woman Flight of Courage is a RMC Raptor coaster located at Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. It is a near clone of Jersey Devil coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure. However, it's a slightly extended layout with a overbank turn just before the brakes. And it's they're claiming it's going to be the world's tallest, fastest, and longest RMC Raptor coaster. By that, they've literally just made it 1 foot taller than Jersey Devil coaster, and probably 1 mile per hour faster than Jersey Devil coaster. I honestly do like how these RMC coasters break each other's records by like 1 feet or 1 mile per hour. Literally, Steel Vengeance opened in 2018 at Cedar Point, and then a year later, Energylandia opened. Basically, Steel Vengeance was 205 feet tall, the world's tallest RMC hybrid at the time. And then the next year, in 2019, Energylandia opened Zadra, which took the record for the world's tallest RMC hybrid at a whopping 206 feet. They've made it 1 foot taller than Steel Vengeance. And also the next year when Iron Gwazi, actually a few years later when Iron Gwazi opened, because when Steel Vengeance opened, that was the world's steepest RMC hybrid at 90 degrees. When Iron Gwazi opened early this year, that took the record by making it beyond vertical at a whopping 91 degrees. The point I'm making is that these RMC coasters like to break each other's records only slightly, but it is a really cool ride, even though it is a clone. I have noticed that Six Flags are building not as much cloned rides as there was in previous years. Like, they used to build like dozens of Batman the Ride clones, now that you don't see them anymore. At least you don't see them get built anymore. Obviously, they build Six Flags as a company changing the way they build attractions, building more original rides, such as Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger at Fiesta Texas, which has got a 95-degree drop, world's first beyond vertical dive coaster. And obviously, Wonder Woman Flight of Courage looks to be a great RMC Raptor coaster, and I cannot wait for it to open. So yeah, that is it for this week's episode of Coaster News. I hope you have enjoyed it, and if you did, then please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment, like, see you in the next video. Bye!